Hello, and today we're going to do a quick review, and this is for an actual board game, which is Tokaido, and it's actually a lot of fun. My wife and daughter and sister was playing it tonight, and they played several games, and they really loved it. They found it a really easy game to learn, but a tricky game to win. So which is good. I think they're the best kind, where strategy becomes really important, but how to play doesn't, take over, sort of thing. There's some games that are really brilliant, but they're massively complex. So this is a great game for the whole family. So for Christmas, because I knew they were getting that, we picked them up the minis, because it just comes with some basic meeples. And so this is a mini set. Now, I have to say, I was a little bit dubious when I first thought about picking them up, because usually with board games, the one thing about board games, as cool as they are, they tend to be really expensive, especially additions and add-ons. I think this is a mixture between some companies being a bit greedy and just some companies being small, and obviously if they're small and everything's produced on a much smaller scale, it's going to cost more. So board game expansions can be at times quite an expensive thing to sort of add to. So I went into our local store, which was Wood for Sheep here, and asked them how much it was, and they said it was $25 basically, and 16 minis for $25, you can't go wrong really. I was very surprised. I expected it to be a lot more expensive than that, and so I thought this pretty much came in at a bit of a bargain. For the game, I think it's going to be perfect. I don't think there's going to be any issues at all from the game side of things. So if you're wanting to make your game look a little bit more visual, this will be perfect. So how are these going to stack up from a miniature painter's point of view? They do come unpainted. So if you're a painter, is this set going to be something worth picking up? I think it's going to depend what you really want. These are not terribly realistic figures. They are very nice, but they are also cartoony in a way. So if you're looking for really hyper-realistic Japanese figures, I wouldn't necessarily pick these up. But if you don't mind a little bit, cartoony stuff, which I don't mind, I think they're going to be great to play with. The other thing that's really cool is if you were learning to paint, this is actually a good thing to pick up. 16 minis for $24 is a pretty much of a bargain. And there's a whole different color choice. Now you can do whatever colors you like, obviously, but even just looking at the box, we have browns for more of the peasants, we have some of the samurai which are a little bit brighter, the geisha, there's a couple of them which are very bright, and the blues and the greens, and there's a red one. Sorry, I was looking at the samurai. So it's, yeah, there's two shades of red, maybe a pink from looking at it from here, the red, and then there's the blue with the parasol. So you've got a whole choice of colours, even if you decide to go with what's on the box. And if you're learning to paint, that's good. There's a whole palette there, and there's lots of skin. Yeah, I think it's going to be good fun. So it comes just shrink wrapped, and there's all the minis you get. So they do look a little bit more cartoony than what's on the front. I think if there's a problem, I think it's probably that. A couple of the reviews and things people have said to me where they didn't like them, they ordered it from online, I think based on the front artwork. And while I think these minis are quite good, they are definitely on the back, when you actually see them, a little bit more cartoony. Now, if you're picking this up at a store, you can obviously pick it up and turn it around and see them and then make up your own mind. Either way, I still like them. I still think they're fun, and especially in between some of the larger projects that I'm going to have this year, this sort of stuff is going to be really nice to sort of fill in. So let's have a look. It's a side opening. I kind of hoped it would be a top, but it's not. And the minis come in a tray. There is nothing else in the box, because all the character cards and the rules and stuff like that should be in the Crossroads expansions and the base set. So there you go, for $25, I think this is an excellent value for money. So just briefly, they do come individually wrapped, like little pieces of Japanese candy. So overall, this first figure is quite good. There is on this side, up here on his shoulder, a little piece that needs to be trimmed off, and there is possibly an air hole. It's a bubble sort of thing. It hasn't gone very deep at all, so a little bit of sanding should get rid of that. You should expect, probably because of the price, you should probably expect a few imperfections. But the hair's not bad. All his actual clothing looks pretty good. The sandals are excellent. And I don't see any problems with the back. Detail on this figure is excellent, actually. The fantasy D&D player in me wished that they were a little bit more, not fantasy, but maybe a bit less like the glasses and some stuff like that, because for Legends of the Five Rings, which is just coming out in that, you could still use them for that, but I mean, Legends of the Five Rings is a massive Japanese-inspired samurai sort of game. These would work to fill your table. You could still use them, but yeah, that part of me would like just a little bit more detail, but I can't really hold that against it, because I'm trying to force the figure into an area that it's not meant to be. It was made for the game. It wasn't made for Legend of the Five Rings or D&D or anything else. So my complaint's just sort of an internal sort of monologue there. The baskets, excellent. Yeah, absolutely excellent. I mean, yeah, apart from sort of a stylistic issue, this figure is actually excellent. Now, this figure has a certain Western slant to it, so it's possible that this is a gaijin sort of figure. Looking at the box there, it does look like there is one. So yes, she's standing on the box, sitting on her travelling dresser here. Nice detail in the hair and around the dress, and the dresser itself is quite nice. One thing that I am impressed with, because sometimes in these sort of figures the area you're going to have a lot of trouble with is going to be these thin pieces, but they're all been solid so far. I like this figure, but we do have the bend in the bow or bow staff, yeah, in his staff, that needs to be fixed. But there is a decent sized gap around the neck which will need to be filled. Not a massive insurmountable problem. That happens a lot with even other more expensive figures, so that's just something to look for. But the actual hair, very nice. And again, this tie, that's the sort of thing that you will have trouble with. Like a lot of the time, if you're going to have things that are broken, missing, didn't form well, didn't mold well, it's going to be in these sort of areas. And he's great. Apart from that gap which can be filled, and there's a small imperfection here which needs to be fixed. But this, brilliant, really, really brilliant. Honestly, I know I keep saying it, but I am really surprised that in a figure of resin with these thin pieces, because this piece is really thin. This is the area where you're normally going to have big problems. You'll find that it's half here, that it didn't mold properly. The fact that so far all these really thin pieces have either they're doing really good quality control and getting rid of anything that's missing stuff, or they've basically done the job right the first time. Okay, now I like the idea of this figure. I think this is actually this is a good fun figure for Father's Day. Something like that for Father's Day is really cool. What I don't like, and this is sort of from the cartoony side of things, and although they're all similar in certain ways, I think this one is a little bit more exemplified in the size of the head. So again, this is stylistically, nothing wrong with the figure, this is just stylistically. But his head seems bigger than on some of the other ones. But I love the concept. We have a Ronin. And we have a little bit of putty in the arm there. But again, and a little bit of bendy on the curve of the blades, which we need to fix. But all the detail on him is excellent, and these thin parts again on the swords, they're all there, top notch. So yeah, the curve is here. You don't want to straighten it, but it's a little bendy, not curvy. So a bit of fixing there. But he's great. Now I like this figure. This is one I like a lot. No problems with the quill. No problems with, and this is thin. This is again, right? This is why I'm impressed overall. This is a thin piece. This scroll, parchment, whatever you want to call it. It's really thin. Not a problem with it. It's all there. That's fantastic. It's so good. Nice detail. Very, very Japanese feeling. So this one, I'm much more comfortable using this in like Legends of the Five Rings and that. This is a much more sort of serious sort of sculpt to me than some of the others. The folds in the cloth, brilliant. You know, like you can do a hair any color you want, but I'm planning on doing these sort of like dark color, pastel, and then black hair. You'll get a really strong contrast. Another one of the more cartoony figures, and again, the only real issue I have is I just feel that on some of these, the head's just a little bit too big. That's where it's sort of more. The rest of it actually isn't very cartoony to me. I mean, okay, you could say it is maybe a little, but overall, I don't really feel that. It's a nice figure. It's just the head. Nice folds in the clothing. This is actually quite a nice figure. It's reasonably basic as in the stance and the concept, but it's got a lot of nice, just simple details. It's all nicely done. The hair is excellent. Everywhere, yeah, there's no blemishes that I can see. Very nice. And proportioned. It seems more proportioned. I like it. Another simple figure, wringing out her hair, looking at the box art. Yeah, lots of leg, lots of skin, basic clothing, no real blemishes. Maybe a tiny bit of putty, or a little bit of filling around the edge of the arm. But overall, simple but nice. Travelling monk. Have to straighten the staff, and there's a little bit of blemish there to work with. But overall, and maybe a little filling on the arm. His hat is very nice, lots of detail. Great folds on his clothing. Not quite sure what the bird on the top is. I might even see if I can remove that. I have to see, because it might be too difficult to remove it from the hat without damaging it, in which case I'm not going to do. Tiny mould line which needs to be sanded. Detail's quite nice. It's nice that there's a jacket, like there's two layers with the jacket and the shirt and that. Another simple but nice. Mama-san. Flowers in the hair, they're quite nice. Simple tunic, but it's still cool. Nice detail on the back to play with. No idea what he is. Detail's nice though. He's got a lot of different parts to him, which is all quite good. Everything's there. There's no blemishes. There's no major work that needs doing on this one. Lots of different layers there, which is nice, like the way they've done stuff. Possibly a young priest in training, carrying various scrolls, and his base here is a little bit warped. That's not a major issue. None of the actual figure looks damaged in any way. And if you're going to have something that's damaged, rather it be the base, rather that be warped than something on the figure. Everything else is quite straight and quite cool. He's quite an interesting figure, really. And I saved my favourite till last, which is the geisha. Now, she does need some work. The parasol should be more around and up. The shaft is quite bent, and that's partly from the weight of this. This is quite a difficult thing, really. I mean, it's hard to fault them completely for this. I'm going to experiment I may have to, if I cannot straighten it, I will have to cut this, drill it, remove this, use a metal, small metal spike, and that will then hold everything in place. That's a fair amount of work for a small figure, but we'll see. But detail wise, I like it. A little bit of filling maybe under the hand, could be a shadow, it's hard to see from how I'm having to look at it. But the hair's gorgeous, the robes are gorgeous, the parasol, the detail is exaggerated, but in a figure this size, that's fine. You have to, otherwise stuff doesn't stand out. So that's not a complaint. It's just it is a bit exaggerated. On the back, same sort of thing. You can see the circle and the line. It really stands out, and nice folds again in the clothing. So that is it. That is all of them, all 16. Really good value. It really is. I've had a couple of stylistic complaints, but I have none about the actual set and the price point they're offering it for. If you have this game, why not? Even if you don't paint them, I think they add a much nicer view than just using the standard meeple figures on the game. So 8 out of 10. They're great.